We were told to turn back to Lasho. They wouldn't allow us into Lao Cai.
Their racism is terrible. I condemn this.
The Three Brotherhood Alliance captured large chunks of northern Shan state in Operation 1027. But several months after their ceasefire with the Myanmar military, some former residents are still not being allowed back to their homes, particularly if they're Burmese, meaning ethnic Burma. Hello and welcome to Athan, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Fondation Hirondelle. This episode is produced by Shwe Phee Myay. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors.
Now, if they check people on the road, they don't ask where we are going. They ask about people's ethnicity. If there is a Burmese person, a friend of mine had a Burmese person with him, and that person got dragged out of the car and was threatened with a gun to his head. It's not easy for us to go back anymore.
Gothura was born in Shan State, but is ethnically Burma. For the last 5 years, he lived in Senwi town, also known as Thenni, in northern Shan State. He has a family of 4 and he raises livestock for a living. But in November 2023, he and his family had to flee when intense fighting broke out in the area. They're now living in an IDP camp in the Lasho area, and Gothura says Burma people are not being allowed back to their homes. The fighting was part of the 1027 operation launched by the Three Brotherhood Alliance. That's the Arakan Army, the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, or MNDAA, and the Ta'ang National Liberation Army. By early January, the alliance had managed to capture most of northern Shan State, including Senwi, which is at a strategic intersection of 2 highways running to the Chinese border. The MNDAA is now in control of the town. It also regained control of the Kokang region, which it held for 20 years until the military seized it in 2009. A ceasefire has been signed with the Myanmar military. That was on 11th of January. Gotain is in a similar situation to Gothura. He's ethnically Burma but has lived in Shan State for a long time. He and his family of 5 were displaced by the fighting around Lao Cai, the main city of the Kokang region and a gambling hub. He'd lived there for 7 years, working in construction. He has a home plus assets and equipment there. A few weeks after the ceasefire, he managed to go back to Lao Cai, but he found that all his assets had been seized by the MNDAA. He was told that they would be returned to him after the war.
When I got back to Lao Cai, I was told to go to the Asset Conservation Inspection Office to take my car and dig a bag. So I went to show my documents and I couldn't talk to the relevant person. I couldn't wait, so I asked another official what I should do next. I was told to go back and that they would return my properties after inspecting them. I didn't have a place to stay in Lao Cai for long, so I had to return to my hometown.
His hometown is Lashio, almost 5 hours away. 2 weeks later, he and his worker tried to return to Lao Cai. They only got about halfway when they were stopped at a checkpoint manned by MNDAA forces. The soldiers asked about their ethnic background.
I explained that I was Burmese and the other one was Gayin. I know a little bit of Kokang language and I could explain that to them, so they didn't do anything to me. But the other one doesn't speak Kokang, and he's also very quiet. Because of that, he was dragged out of the car, was accused of being a military spy, and was slapped in the face. We were told to turn back to Lasho. They wouldn't allow us into Lao Cai, so I wasn't able to get in the second time.
Northern Shan State is home to many ethnic groups, including the Kokang, who are Han Chinese, plus Shan, Bama, Jingpo, Wa, Lisu, and others. 2020 statistics from the General Administration Department suggest that 15% of the people living in Lao Cai and 5% of those in Senwi were Burma. But among the residents who fled from fighting, it seems that not everyone is being allowed back after the ceasefire. Is this ethnic discrimination? The MNDAA insists that former residents with no political affiliation can return home. Spokesperson Lee Jia-win suggested that any problems are more to do with administrative delays.
It
is not true that Burmese people cannot enter completely. We have no such policy in place. However, some Burmese have not resumed operations yet because this is an important period to re-establish the special region after the fighting. We will set up a leave-out committee first, and after this, the workers can come.
But recent news reports of houses being demolished in Laokai's so-called Bama town would also suggest that Burmese are being particularly targeted. Again, Lee Jia-win has denied to local media that there's any ethnic motivation, saying this is part of a city beautification scheme and that the roads need to be widened. Daw Thu Za does not accept such denials. She's been living in Laokai for almost 8 years and owns a shop there. Her family didn't flee when the fighting broke out, but after the MNDAA captured Laokai, their soldiers came to her house and told her that Burmese people were not allowed to stay anymore. The family was evicted. After that, they tried to enter Laokai many times, but were denied entry because they're Burmese.
Since things have calmed down, I want to go back to my own shop. I've tried several times. I tried to go with other ethnic people, with Chinese, with Kokang people. I tried to enter many times from the Kwan Lon side, and also from the Nam Tape side. But I can't. They won't let me in at the gate as I am Burmese.
Daw Thu Za said she's not against the MNDAA checking people's backgrounds. However, if there are former residents, they should be allowed to return to their homes, regardless of their race or ethnicity. People at the top may claim there's no discrimination, but she says it's happening on the ground.
Their racism is terrible. I condemn this. Sure, they are seizing territory, but it's the citizens who suffer the consequences.
There have also been reports of the MNDAA seizing properties of locals because they'd rented them out to Burma people. Daw Bok Ja says her house in Laokai was seized for this reason.
When we checked later, we found that my house was seized because I rented it out to Burmese people. I would rent my house to anyone from any ethnicity, but never to those who are affiliated with the SEC or the Chinese scamming business. We own a whole house, but now we have to rent a house to live in.
Everyone should enjoy equal human rights no matter their race or origins. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone should enjoy freedom of movement within their country and no one should be arbitrarily deprived of their property. Gothura doesn't know what might have happened to his home and assets since he fled, but he just wants to go home.
In terms of valuables, I have an expensive car. I'm not exactly sure whether anything has been lost. I miss my home the most. No matter what kind of a house that is, even if it is a hut, anyone would want to go back to their house. I think people get homesick even if they are doing well somewhere else.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Do Othan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcast via the Do Othan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes and Spotify. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.